Hey everybody, it's Lainey again, and I am committed to being here on Tuesdays and Thursdays to support you guys. And specifically, I want to really lean in with you around school starting up. Maybe for some of you, school has already started up. I know it's the big question on parents' minds, especially whether your child is in daycare, preschool, elementary school, middle school, high school. I've got your back, I've got you covered. I want to go over some things that I talked about on Tuesday because apparently my audio wasn't working. So it was, unless you're like a master lip reader, I'm not sure how much you got out of my session on Tuesday. So I'm going to go over some things that I shared with you then. And specifically, I want to talk about your kids' well being going to screen school. I'm going to talk about some just basic physical stuff that I want to help you problem solve. And I also have some surprising realizations around a little bit of social upside for kids attending screen school and wearing masks. So, for anybody who has a child who struggles with social cues, with making friends, keeping friends, getting into social situations in a positive way. And you'll know this if you have a child who struggles with social cues and reading a room and maybe modulating their voice, that kind of thing. Um, this will hopefully be really helpful for you. And you would know that as early as, I would say, preschool, or any time that they're really socializing. Perhaps a teacher has told you, or a daycare worker has told you, your child gets too close to other kids, or when other kids say no, your kid doesn't take it well, or your kid is a close talker, a loud talker, is always touching other kids, that kind of thing. So you've seen it. If your child is trying to get in on a game, maybe they're a little awkward around it, or maybe they're too aggressive, or maybe they're turning other kids away in one way or another. They just kind of don't know how to get in a positive way with a social group. So I'm going to talk about how there are a couple of things going on right now, very specific to this era of Corona, that is potentially upside for a child who is struggling with some social stuff. First thing, though, is I want to talk about school. And I just want to give you some down and dirty things to do to make sure that your child is physically going to be able to um, thrive and, not wither with the amount of online school that they're potentially going to be going to. Both of my kids are in middle school and high school, and there's going to be a lot of screens going on. So, first of all, let's just talk about posture for a second. Um, when anybody, you, me, anybody, is sitting in front of a computer, or in any way in front of a computer for a long time, it's important to have a couple of things in check. Number one is monitor the amount of blue light that's coming in from the screen. All screens have blue light, and there are certain filters that you can buy. And I highly recommend that, because if your child hasn't already experienced headaches, nausea, any kind of discomfort from the amount of screen time that they've been having, they will, because not only are they going to be attending school online, but they're also going to be doing a lot of their socializing still online, at least. And then there's going to be online homework, right, for the foreseeable future. So make sure that you have some sort of blue light filter. I'm not here to advertise any particular brand. I'm not an affiliate. I don't have affiliate links to give you, none of that stuff. They have blue light glasses. You can just do a simple Google search. They do sell a lot of the stuff on Amazon, but again, I'm not promoting Amazon. I'm just saying, if you do a search for blue light filter, blue light glasses, that kind of thing, you will find something that will work for your child to have in front. Okay, that's number one. Number two, make sure that your child and you are drinking plenty of water and taking eye breaks from the screen. So you may need to set timers every 20 minutes or every 30 minutes, for little kids, maybe every 10 minutes, to look away from the screen and do what my friend calls eye yoga. circles one way, circles the other way, look to the left, look to the right. You want to be exercising your eye muscles so that they're not just staring straight forward all the time. Okay. And the third thing that I want to share with you is around posture. Our modern posture, humans' collective modern posture, is to have a rounded back, their chin jutting forward, and their hands out. And that's because of all the time that we spend leaning down to see our laptops and our hands out in front of us typing away on a keyboard. The solution to that is, of course, to be sitting up straight. But how do you do that? I didn't know about this thing until I started working hours on my laptop myself. There is something called a laptop perch or a stand that you can buy, and you can lift up your laptop so that the screen, I'm using one right now, the screen is lifted up and I am sitting up straight as I'm talking to you, and I'm looking directly into my camera in this case, but could be for work as well. I'm looking at my screen. So you can either purchase one of these stands, or again, I'm not here with an affiliate link. I don't sell products for other people. Or you can just use a stack of books and get your laptop up higher so that your child, no matter how short they are, whatever table they're sitting at, their screen is up at their eye level so that they are looking straight ahead. That's an important thing. And the second thing to keep in mind is that the feet are flat on the ground. Okay, you don't want little kids' legs swinging around or older kids' legs swinging around. Also for you, if your legs are not rooted, if your feet are not rooted on the ground, your legs eventually will be tingling. You're not going to get the right circulation. It's not going to feel good. What I love about raising your laptop up is that you can use a standing desk, meaning you can make anything into a standing desk. If you have an island in your kitchen, or you have some sort of higher table for a younger child who's shorter, that screen can be up where they're standing and they're able to move a little bit. It's like having high-tech equipment in my case, low-tech house, right? Like you can have the best situation, better than them sitting in a classroom all day, with their little tushes in their seats. A standing desk is something that could really work for them, in addition to the other things that I just talked about, the moving around, moving the eyes around, taking frequent breaks. Hopefully those are going to be built in to your child's day. But if they're not built in, taking the breaks and moving around and possibly standing up, that kind of thing, then that is something that you could bring up to your teacher, your child's teacher, to say, is there any way that we can build in, breaks? It's probably something they're not eager to do because getting all the kids back and focused again could be hard, but hopefully that's something that they're open to if they're not already doing. Okay, so those are the three things I wanted to share with you around attending online school, or what I'm calling screen school, this fall. Posture, protecting yourself and your children against that blue light exposure, and having plenty of water. The other thing I want to add there is that if you have raised your laptop up onto books or onto one of these stands that I mentioned, you are going to need an external keyboard so that when they're typing, their arms aren't all the way up, especially if they're typing a lot, like typing a paper. If they're older, you are going to need an external keyboard. And I realize that these things they cost money, and it doesn't have to be the highest version of it. And some schools are going to be having used equipment. You can always go to a place like Best Buy and see if they have any kind of used equipment. There are lots of places right now that are being sensitive to costs incurred by parents that they wouldn't normally have, and there's no shame in asking. So I recognize that what I'm suggesting would be an extra cost to you potentially, but again, well worth the investment to save your child's spine, especially as it's developing. Okay, if you have any questions about that, feel free to go ahead and ask me, and I'll share with you any information that I have about it. Okay. So the other thing that I want to share with you is, so I think that there's a little bit of a silver lining here in this age of Corona, and I'm not one to sprinkle sugar and, rainbow sprinkles all over everything, but there's a social upside, learning potential for kids who struggle with social interactions, kids who struggle with social cues, kids who struggle with reading other people's faces, hearing tones of voice. If your child is somebody who thinks that people are screaming at them all the time when they're not, if your child is somebody who thinks somebody is laughing at them but they're not, or in their own communications has trouble modulating their voice. Maybe when they ask a question, it doesn't sound like a question. Maybe they look angry a lot. Maybe your child sounds angry a lot because they're sort of monotone. Again, maybe they're a close talker. Maybe you've gotten some feedback from daycare or preschool or elementary school that your child just doesn't take rejection well, or doesn't seem to have friends on the playground, or doesn't know how to make friends, or anything in the air that you've noticed or you've been told that your child is having struggles with socially. I'm here with some good news for you. So the weird thing about this whole era of Corona is that our kids are Zooming a lot, right? And again, I'm not somebody who sprinkle lemonade all over everything, but I'm here to tell you that being in a room or a situation where there are other people there, in a Zoom room where there are other people there, and your child is able to see himself or herself as they're talking to other people, it's the same thing as if they were talking to somebody live. Maybe not exactly the same thing, but it's very similar to them having a mirror right there where they can check in with their own facial expressions. Now, a lot of kids are just obsessed with looking at themselves, and they're, fixing their hair, and they're doing stuff like that. But if you know your child struggles socially, you can take this as an opportunity to say to him or her, while you're in your Zoom room, check in with how your face is looking. A lot of kids are going to sit there like this, and they look angry, and they don't feel angry, and they don't think that they look angry, but they actually look angry. And so if the teacher is saying, "What's wrong? Are you okay? Do you understand? You look confused." And they're like, "No, I'm fine." It's something to point out gently to your child to say, "Look at how your face is. Look at what your face is doing." And you can do some practice runs. You could do practice runs in the bathroom with an actual regular mirror to just bring onto their radar that when they're in a Zoom room, in a Zoom conference, that they need to be mindful of, or it would help them to be mindful of how their face is looking. What message is their face sending while somebody else is talking? Is it, "I'm so bored"? Is it, "This teacher's so stupid"? Is it, "I already know this"? Is it, "I'm totally confused," but like their face doesn't look confused, right? So it's an opportunity for them to have real-time feedback on what they look like during a social interaction. Now, according to Malcolm Gladwell, who's written such books as David and Goliath and Tipping Point and stuff that you probably already know, the guy who wrote the thing about 10,000 hours of mastery, right? In order to become an expert at something and to have an intuition about something, you need 10,000 hours of practice. He says that 85% of people don't know what their own faces are doing while they are in a social interaction with other people. So this isn't only for kids who struggle with social interactions, it's for all of us. It's a really great opportunity for us to realize maybe you're somebody who has that, resting bee face, right? Where people say to you like, "Well, you're so serious all the time," or, "You look like you're angry," and you're like, "Well, I'm not," but maybe your resting face looks like you're being a little harsh. I've been told that, and it's something that I've had to consciously work on. And I'll tell you what, the Zoom conferences have actually helped me. So it's a tool, not a total solution, but it's a tool. Here's the other way that this coronavirus could be helping our kids who struggle socially with some of their social skills. When your face is covered up with a mask, when other people's faces are covered up with a mask, all you can see are their eyes. And you have to be reading their eyes to find out what they're feeling and what they're expressing, right? And also, it forces us to listen more carefully to people's tones of voices. Now, for a child who has trouble reading a whole face of expression, they sometimes don't know where to focus. So when they're interacting with somebody who is wearing a mask, which is frequent these days, they can focus on somebody's eyes. The mask is helping to block out the other parts of the face that will definitely be giving them cues, and that later on, when things go back to normal, they can incorporate, but for right now, the eyes are such a good focal point for them. And it also encourages them to what? Listen to somebody's tone of voice to pick up on some signs of what they might be thinking or feeling, right? And you can practice that with your child. You can practice it at dinner also. Not only with reading, guess what I'm doing right now? Even though my face is covered up, you can tell that I'm smiling, right? Or you can tell that I'm angry. You can tell I'm upset, confused, surprised, right? You can play around with that. Just the eyes. And similarly, you can play around with tone of voice. So when your child is wearing a mask, for them to be mindful of, how do you smile with your eyes? How do you let somebody know what you're thinking with your eyes? It's a great isolated practice. I can't emphasize this enough. It's like this crazy unique opportunity for kids to practice using their eyes for expression. If your child is somebody who has trouble smiling in a natural way for photos, right? What do all the photographers say? They're like, just let it come to your eyes and the rest will follow, right? So have your child practice using their eyes with the mask on, looking in a mirror, smiling, and with their own tone of voice as well. It might sound fake to them. It might sound fake for them to say with a question, putting a question mark at the end of a sentence. Sometimes that feels fake for kids who tend to have a monotone voice. If they're saying like, are you hungry right now? That might be their way of saying, are you hungry right now? Right? They might not know how to say, are you hungry right now? That might feel very fake to them, but it is imperative for them to practice modulating their tone in order to convey their meaning and to convey a sense of warmth and friendliness. Kids who struggle with modulating their tone come across as being aloof, as being checked out, and as being nasty. And they're not necessarily, right? Your kid may be the sweetest kid on earth, but because they're not modulating their tone correctly, socially speaking, they're getting misread, they're getting misinterpreted, they're getting labeled as certain things by their peers, by their coaches, by their teachers, maybe even by you. Because at a certain point, even if a kid doesn't intend to sound disrespectful, they don't intend to be disrespectful, but if they sound disrespectful, teachers, coaches, instructors, other adults, other kids are going to pick up on that tone more than the words. Okay? So this is a great opportunity for you to do some really isolated practice with your child. They could have the mask on. You could be sitting back to back, practicing your tone, practicing inflection. And it's all under the guise and the actual need that during this corona time, when we are wearing masks, and even when you go back to school, kids are going to be wearing masks. How do you convey a friendly tone? I know a kid who recently realized how to ask something in a friendly tone, and he said, oh, I just have to ask it in a shrill way. And I said to him, a kid who I was helping, I said, it's not shrill to me. He said, but it's shrill to me. And I was like, okay, if it's shrill to you and that's how you categorize it in your head, fine, whatever it takes. But on the outside, it actually sounds really friendly and really curious. And he was like, oh, okay, I can do that. No biggie, right? It sure beats being misinterpreted and people thinking you're a jerk, right? So I hope that this helps you. I want you to take this as one piece of information I'm going to be giving to help you guys get into the groove this fall, to help your kids so that they can not just survive, but they can thrive, especially those kids who are a handful for you in one way or another. I am here for you and I've got your back. All right. So, subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Check out my free online workshop if you haven't done that already. And as always, go ahead and if this sounds good to you and you want more, check out what other stuff I've got. And we are here for you to book a free call as well. So go ahead and use the link below. I will talk to you soon. Be well, stay mighty, stay strong, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.